Hello and welcome to this video recording, and this is the fifth lecture of Computer Security B. So here in this lecture we cover IT security controls or countermeasures, plans and procedures. Okay, before we start, let us define what is security controls. You will see the word controls. Previously in other lecture we talked about it as countermeasures. So security controls is the same as security solutions or security countermeasures. How we define it? So it's an action, device, procedure, or other measures that reduce risks. So we use these actions, these devices, this procedure in order to reduce risk. And how is this done? By preventing or eliminating security violation, reducing attacks, reducing violations. So by reducing the violations or minimizing the harm that it can cause, or discovering and reporting these violations. And at the end, we want to enable corrective actions. This is the most important thing here. Why we do these things all? In order to have corrective action. In case any violation happen, then we need to have corrective action, something to reduce it, something to reduce the harm. So this is security control or security countermeasures. IT security management controls and implementation. Okay, so we have 3 steps. The first one is prioritizing risk. We cannot prevent from all risk. We have to prioritize risk, which need to be solved first, which are more important, which are less important. So we have to prioritize the risk. Second step is to respond to risk. How to respond? Firstly, determine which response to use. Do I have to accept it? Or I have to mitigate it, try to solve it? Or I have to avoid it at all? Or I have to give it to somebody else to solve it to me? Then we have to evaluate the recommended option, control option. Of course, we have many solutions. So we have to sit and discuss these. We have many recommended controls. We should select the most important controls. Of course, we have many solutions that we can implement, but maybe we don't have the facilities or all the capabilities to implement all of them. So we select some of them, and then we have to develop a plan how to implement it. And at the end, we have to implement these controls. So this was step 2 of responding to risk. Third step is to monitor the risk. Okay, after we implement this solution, is the risk still there? Are we still in very high risk, or it has been minimized, mitigated? Okay, now countermeasures or control classes. The controls, security controls are divided into 3 classes. Okay, so we have management controls, we have operational controls, and we have technical controls. If we start with technical controls, it means technical solutions, something related to technology. How can I use technology in order to reduce the risks? So by using hardware or software, or by using system capabilities. Okay, so technical controls means I use hardware and software in a correct way. Okay. Operational control, this is related to policies, to mechanisms, methods, to procedures, how to solve this issue. So it provides policies, mechanisms, and procedures. It doesn't use systems, but it uses implemented by people. So people are the one who create policies. People are the one who create mechanisms or procedures. So operational controls are done by people, not by systems. Management controls refer to issues that management need to address. So this is the management of the organization is the one who address the management controls. Focuses on reducing the risk of loss and protecting the organization's mission. So it's important. It's focusing on how to make sure that I don't lose my organization, how to protect my organization mission, and so on. So these are the three control classes, which is management controls that are done by management, operational controls, which are the procedures, the policies that are done by people, and the third one is technical control, which is the hardware and software and systems that are used to control the risks. Here, let's take example of technical security controls. Technical security controls. Okay, so we have three controls: supportive control, we have preventive controls, and we have detection and discovery control. Okay, supportive is general controls, preventive to prevent risk, detective to know to detect the risks. Okay, and we have many of them, many methods that are used in technical controls, like for example, authentication, authorization, access control, transaction privacy, non-reputation, and you all know all of these, intrusion detection. So we use all of these. Why? To protect communication. At the end, why I apply this all technical security? To have protected communication. How I have protected communication? I make sure it's safe from disclosure. So it means that only authorized people know it. It's safe from substitution or modification, change, and it's also safe from reply attacks. So I apply identification, cryptography, security administration, applying least privilege, and so on and so forth. So this is an example of how to apply technical security controls. So this table here, it classifies the security controls. For example, I have management security controls, I have operational security controls, and I have technical security controls. So it gives us example of control family. For example, management control is done by planning, program management, risk assessment, and so on. Operational controls done by configuration management, incident response, personal security, and so on. Technical controls are done by access control, accountability and audit, identification, authentication, authorization, and so on. So this is method to classify the security controls. Here we have ISO, IEC, security controls and their objectives. So please go through them because it's clearly stated here and you know most of them. So you know what's cryptography. You know what's physical security, like access control. So please go through them. If you have any question, let us know. Okay. Here we talk about residual risk. It's like in real life. You solve a problem. After you solve the problem, another problem comes from that one, from the solution. The same thing here with security controls. I apply some solution, but after I finish applying that solution, another problem happen. So that new problem that might happen, we call it residual risks. So we have new or enhanced control. We apply new controls, new solution, new countermeasure. Reduce the number of flaws or error. We try to reduce the flaws, the vulnerabilities or error that might happen. Add targeted control. Reduce magnitude of impact. We are trying to do this. But after we have done this, we have still residual risk. In Arabic, we say residual يعني المتبقي. Okay, so after we apply new control, we still have residual risk. Okay, so for management, in order to identify which solution to apply and which not to apply, or which controls to apply and which not to apply, they have to do cost-benefit analysis. Okay, so what does cost-benefit analysis mean? Okay, it should be conducted by management. The management will do it, an organization, it will do it. Why? In order to identify controls that provide the greatest benefit, because we have many security solutions we can implement. Like I can implement the latest firewall with the best penetration testing program and the most expensive hardware and software to have the top security. But management have other things to say. They don't want to pay too much for these controls if they are not very important. So they have to do this cost-benefit analysis. It provides the greatest benefit to the organization given the available resources. I have these resources and I want to apply the most, the highest security given. Should contrast the impact of implementing a control or not, and an estimation of costs. So it will tell whether this solution that we are choosing, whether it can reduce the risk. How about the cost? So it's here, uh, like we want to reach to balance between the cost and benefit. So I try to reduce the cost and raise the benefit. Okay, so this analysis can be quantitative or it can be qualitative. So it can be by numbers or it can be done by meeting people and interviewing them and so on. So management chooses selection of control. After this analysis is done, the management will choose which controls to apply, and so at the end it's decided by the business. It's a business decision. So it must show cost justified by reduction in risk. At the end of this analysis, it must show the cost is justifiable. يعني إنه التكلفة في حدود المعقول and reducing in risk. وفي نفس الوقت I can reduce the risk by paying justifiable amount of time, of money, resources, and so on. So it considers if it reduces risk too much or not enough. Is it too costly or appropriate? So they decide based on how much it reduces the risk. Does it reduce the risk highly or it doesn't reduce the risk. The cost is very high or is normal, appropriate, acceptable. So this is cost benefit analysis. After this is done, they will choose or they will select the controls to be used. Okay, here we talk about IT security plan. So in the security plan, we have to cover these points. What will be done, which resources are needed, and which people or who is responsible. So it provides these details. The goal is to detail the actions needed to improve the identified deficiencies in the risk profile. Deficiencies means problems. Okay, so here we give actions to improve the deficiencies in our risk profile. It should include risk, recommended controls, and the priority, action priority, what need to be done first. And then it also gives the selected controls, which controls are used to be used, and which resources we need, which equipment, which hardware, which software, which things we need to be done. It also talks about responsible people and dates. So we give due dates for these people in order to implement these security controls. We also have maintenance requirement because this is very important. We don't want to do it once and forget about it. No, it's like a loop. So every time we need to have maintenance. Make sure everything is running okay. So this is security plan. So in this plan, we talk about the recommended controls and the priority. We list the selected control, which resources needed, which people are needed, and we give due dates. And at the end, we talk about the maintenance requirement. Let's take an example of risk plan, assessment plan. Okay, so here, let's take this example. For example, the risk here is hacker attack on internet router. You know the importance of router. Router is very important. If somebody attack router, then they can damage the entire network. Okay, so this is the level of risk is very high. But we have recommended controls and we have selected controls. Recommended, we might disable the telnet, use audit, set policy for storing password, set backup, set change control. Okay, the priority of this is high. Now let's see the selected control. You see here recommended control, many of them. So selected control is strengthen access authentication. We need to check the authentication process, and we also need to install into IDS, intrusion detection software. Required resources. Resources here we need 3 days IT administrator time to change and verify the router configuration and to write the policies. We also need 1 day to train the administration staff. Responsible people, which people to be involved, and we list their names. We give them start and end date, like for example 3 days here. Other comments need a periodic test. Okay, this is for maintenance. Need periodic test. We do it from time to time, like every week, every month, and so on. And we also need to review configuration and policy use. to make sure that people are sticking to the policy and so on and so forth. So this was an example of implementation plan. Okay, so for a security plan implementation, we need a document. That document is very important. So it tells us what needed to be done for each selected control. For each selected control, what should we do? And which people are responsible with which resources and time frame, as we said previously in the previous slide. So it tells us which controls, for each selected control, which people we need, which resources, how much frame. Okay, so identified people, personnel, implement a new or enhanced control. They will implement the new controls. They also may need configuration change. They may need to change the configuration of the system or upgrade to a new system installation. Maybe they will need to move to a newer version of the operating system, or they might change the access permissions and so on. They may also involve development of new procedures. They might create new procedures, new rules, and so on. It need to be encouraged and monitored by management. These responsible people, which are identified by security plan, they have to be monitored from management. The management have to check their work and so on. So when implementation is completed, management authorizes the system for operational use. After this is done all, we start with the operational use of the implemented scheme. If we improve the system, then we have to train the people. Okay, people should be aware. طبعا we have different sets of people here. We have responsible personnel, like people who are highly responsible. Their names are in the security plan. So these people need special training on details of design and implementation. They know how to implement these procedures, awareness of operational procedures. So they have to know exactly how to deal with this implementation, the details, and so on. Okay, so they need special training. It's not enough only to train these people. We need also general awareness, means all people. So it's for all people in the organization, spanning all levels in organization, means all people. Essential to meet security objectives. It's very important to educate the people, or to raise awareness within organization in terms of security. If we don't do it, then we will have poor practices that reduce the security. For example, if we enhance the password security, but if you don't teach the people, they will not know the importance of this password security. So maybe they will share their password. So if we don't educate them, then poor practices will be seen. Aim to convince personnel that risk exists and breaches may have significant consequences. Why we educate them? To tell them that there are some risks, and if these risks happen, then we have significant, very big problem. We will have significant consequences. So that's why training them is very important. Okay, we educated people, then we have to follow up. So security management is a cyclic process. It's not just one task. Security management is like a loop, cyclic process. It never ends up. So it's constantly repeated to respond to changes in the IT system and the risk environment. It changed. Maybe if I if I update the system, or in case if I encounter any risk. So it's cyclic. We need to monitor the implemented controls. As we said earlier, we have to evaluate the changes, whether it improved the system or whether it might cause other security breaches. You remember the residual risk? So if we don't evaluate, then it might cause security breaches. Maybe there is the selected solution might cause other breaches and we don't know about it. So we have to evaluate the changes. Maintenance is very important. So need continued maintenance and monitoring of implemented controls. I implemented new control. I need to keep checking that this implemented control is doing perfectly fine. For example, I apply a new update on the system, some software. I applied some update in the software, but the new version of the software might have bugs, so it will create more problems. That's why I need to monitor the implemented controls to ensure continued correct functioning and appropriateness. Why? So to make sure that things perform as intended. These maintenance have to be periodic, means timely. For example, I have to review it every week or every month or every few months. Upgrade of controls to meet new requirements. Maybe the requirements change, so I have to upgrade to update the controls. Or maybe system changes do not impact controls or address new threats or vulnerabilities. So at the end, we have to check if there is any new vulnerabilities or risks. So these are the tasks that to be done in the maintenance stage. So if I have security policy, then I need to test the compliance with this policy or this procedure. Compliance means in Arabic تقيد، يعني أريد أتأكد هل هذه السياسات الأشخاص متقيدين فيها. Okay, so it's an audit process. It's like assessment process to review the security process. Why we do this security compliance? It's to verify, to check compliance with the plan. I need to make sure that people are sticking to the plan, everything is done according to the plan. It can be internal or external. So this review process can be done from people within the organization, or I can invite an external organization to come and check compliance with the policy or the plan. It's usually they use checklist. So they use checklist to check if I have suitable policy, if suitable selection of controls were chosen, and we check also the maintenance is used and done correctly. So it's very important to make sure that everything is done as stated in the security plan. The last thing we talk about today is change and configuration management. Two parts of this, change management and configuration management. In change management is the process to review propose changes to system. If I need to change something on the system, we have to review it. So we test patches, we test updates. Okay, I installed new version of some software or some hardware. We need to test the patches and make sure that these updates or these patches do not adversely affect other applications, to make sure that these updates do not damage other applications. طبعا it's very important for general administration process and it's very important here to evaluate the impact of new updates on the system. Okay, so this was change management. Configuration management, it's very important also to keep track, to follow up that the configuration of each system in use and the change made to them. So I need to follow up here with the configuration if I change in the configuration of a system. Know what patches or upgraded might be relevant. Keep list of hardware and software versions installed on each system to help restore them following up a failure. If a change of configuration have done some failure, then I need to be able to restore, to return back to some certain point in the history. And how I can do it? Easy. If I have checklist or I have a history of what version I have, when did I made it, then it will be very easy to roll back again. Very much and listening for listening, and if you have any question, please let us know. Thank you very much.